The Justice Reinvestment Working Group. This is, believe me, an incredibly accurate designation for once. This has been a working group, and the emphasis on group. It is really a marvelous collaboration of institutions, of departments, of people, of divisions, of interested citizens, and collaboration with a group who has come in to work with us, with all the usual problems associated with, challenges associated with, okay, somebody's going to come in and try and tell us what to do, and who are these folks, and what's going to be their attitude, and all the rest of it. And very, very quickly, that was subsumed and overcome by virtue of the competence, the professionalism, the demonstrated interest, the desire to understand Hawaii and to work with people here in Hawaii for the benefit of all and future, all of us now presently working in this area of justice and this application and administration and working for the future. I have the very fortunate of being in a position they have hosting today. That's what I'm going to do. Jody is going to be the MC and the ringmaster for all of this. I just want to make one other comment then with regard to how it works. I'm as guilty as anybody else with the idea of, okay, what are these folks going to be able to tell me? And particularly because of my experience and affection for the justice system, if you will, going back to my probation officer days. Being an officer of the court as a probation officer is something that's never left me. I think it formed values that I carry with me to this moment, whether I've been a legislator or now as governor. The distinguishing characteristic, the hallmark of our free society is our justice system. It is not the mighty against all others, or a dictatorial imposition, or an authoritarian kangaroo court or top-down operation. Regardless of the flaws and the challenges that face us in that context of freedom, the justice system arcs toward having the people's interests at heart, and freedom and democracy and its maximization in terms of providing justice and opportunity for everybody to have the benefit of a justice system worthy of the name has always been the hallmark, particularly here in Hawaii. And the Justice Reinvestment Working Group fulfilled all of that. Time and again, as we would go over some of the conditions about rates of incarceration or recidivism, you name it, of what we were dealing with, they were able to take where there were broad applications suitable for Hawaii, they brought them in. Where particular conditions in Hawaii, cultural and historic, regional, because of our location came into the picture, they zeroed in on that. I was very, very impressed, and I think you're going to be impressed as the various individuals make their presentation to you, as to how we were able to take a broad foundation of the justice system in terms of how it's working, the utilization of resources and funding, etc., and apply it to Hawaii. And what was most encouraging to me is we're on the right track for a lot of things. There's a whole lot of elements already in place in Hawaii, some just barely there, some kind of insulated and isolated and not generally known to the public at large, which I think is going to change very, very rapidly. Whether it's in terms of prosecution, whether it's in terms of public defending, whether it's in terms of the administration sentencing, legislation, all of that is covered in the working group's recommendations. They're comprehensive, they're deep, they're broad, and they recognize Hawaii. They recognize the good things that we're doing and emphasize where we can not only just do them better, but extend the good things that are already going on. It's recognized those things that we want to change, and what was interesting to me is we're on it already. It's just that we haven't necessarily stitched it all together. That's why you see everybody from the Chief Justice here to the prosecutors to state legislators here. So I'm going to ask everybody then to come up and perhaps give their particular turn on what has taken place, and my hope is, and my belief is that we now have a solid foundation to go to the legislature with. And I think that this is going to be a remarkable exposition of what an enterprise like this can actually accomplish. For once, we're not going through motions. For once, we're not just getting a study that's going on the shelf. This is a dynamic work. This is dynamic work that's been done. This is work that has a practical application immediately before us, and I couldn't be prouder of the people who put this together. And the person who has headed this effort from the very beginning, who was wide open, never came from the point of view of defending herself in this or trying to fend off anything. On the contrary, her openness, her willingness to entertain new ideas, her capacity to explain clearly what has been the institutional responsibilities and obligations we've had. Someone whose experience in the public safety system is broad and deep, as this report is Jody Maisake Hirota, who is the head of our Department of Public Safety, and for whom I have a great deal of affection and aloha, and I couldn't be prouder than to introduce her to you right now.
Well, what do you say after an introduction like that? But on behalf of the Governor, Senate President Shantatsui, and Judge Ong, who are the tri-chairs for this process, I want to welcome all of you here and thank you for coming. As we began this process last year in January, actually, it was a matter of getting all the different branches of government together. So we approached Judge Rettenwall, and we approached the Attorney General and the prosecutors and in the different counties and the state legislature. And it was about looking at our criminal justice system and how we can collaboratively work together to make this process better. So we put in an application, and in June we were told that we were one of 7 states that were approved to become a part of this process. And before I go on, I do want to introduce the people who have come from the mainland that have been working with us on this from the very beginning. And we have Marshall Clements from Council on State Government. We have Andrew Barbie back here, and where's Robert? Oh, Robert's back here. And all our different organizations. And you know, with that said, I also need to recognize some of our staff who've been working behind the scenes. And I don't know if I see him here. Is Darren here? Well, Darren Karazoli, who's our state ranching coordinator, did a little bit of research, and I told him, take a look at this and tell me what you think. He came back and he said, Director, I believe this is a good process. So he and my administrative assistant, Rosalina Ipopo, worked together on putting everything together and getting things done to get us going. So again, this is a collaborative effort. It's data-driven, and it really is, as the governor said, is an unprecedented partnership. And it's with the Center on Pew Center on States and the U.S. Department of Justice, Bureau of Justice Assistance, legislative leaders, the Department of Public Safety, and the Governor's Office. So we all kind of came together to say, what are we going to do with these 6,000 people who are incarcerated and those who are yet to come into the system? We know that we've had to send, since Prosecutor Kanshiro was since 1998, that we've been sending inmates out of state to be housed there. And the reason why I looked to the prosecutor, because he was our director at that time, and he was the first one to send our local prisoners to the mainland. So with our state systems being overcapacitated, it required currently over 1/3 of our population to be sent out of state at this time. So what we were looking for is long-term, not quick fixes on how we could address the criminal justice system. So therefore, having the judiciary and having the legislative body involved in this process was so very important. So I believe that the data that has been put together and the recommendations, which Marshall is going to be talking about, is going to help us succeed in that process. And as a collaborative team, you know, and I do gotta say, I really have to say team, because again, you know, we have Prosecutor Carter Sherrill here, we have Prosecutor John Kim from Maui here, we have Senator Espero, we have Attorney General David Louis, we have again Senate President Shanti Tsui, Representative Henry Aquino, we have Bert Matsuoka. I mean, we have, if you look around this room, it's just very, very high-level administrators and people of great knowledge in the criminal justice system, I gotta say that. And it's not just talk, it's really a lot of work, and it took a lot of time and effort. And I gotta say, I think at one point, we were driving each other crazy a little bit, and I don't mean it in a bad way, it's because we need to get this data quick. We need to get this data quick, and so that the council and state governments could actually put everything together. And when you folks hear what has come out, I think you folks will be very surprised. So at this time, I want to have Marshall Clements come up and share a little bit about that.
As you can see, youth will be served.
Thank you, Governor, Chief Justice, Senate President, Director, and others who are here. It's a pleasure to be here. Over the past 7 months, we at the Justice Center, Council of State Governments, have conducted, in partnership with all those in the room, a comprehensive analysis of Hawaii's criminal justice system. Council of State Governments analyzed hundreds of thousands of records, from arrest and court conviction data to jail, probation, prison, and parole data, and solicited input from a wide range of stakeholders in the criminal justice system, from victim advocates, judges, prosecutors, the defense bar, probation, and parole. And specifically, we found 3 primary challenges facing the state's criminal justice system that has been highlighted for the Justice Reinvestment Working Group. First is that the jail population has been increasing due to delays in the pretrial process. The pretrial assessment and decision-making process carried out takes much longer in Hawaii than most other states, and budget cuts have caused those delays to grow worse over the past several years. The second major finding is that prisoners are required to complete programs that don't benefit public safety. For those who do need treatment in prison, access is often limited because of too many of the wrong individuals being required to participate. And failure to put the right people in the right programs, based on the research, has contributed to low-risk offenders spending longer and longer behind bars without any benefit to public safety. And finally, we found that restitution for victims is not being adequately collected. Current statutes only require people in prison to pay 10 cents on the dollar to victims for every dollar they earn behind bars, and even if they have hundreds or thousands of dollars in their accounts. As a result of these findings and others, the Justice Reinvestment Policy Framework that the working group received and discussed today seeks to do 3 things. First, to increase efficiency in the pretrial process by ensuring the court has the information it needs to make more timely decisions. Second, to reduce reoffending among those paroled by focusing programs on those most likely to benefit and ensuring swift and certain responses to those who violate the conditions of parole. And finally, to provide more accountability by requiring and increasing the amount of victim restitution paid by offenders while they're incarcerated. The policy framework will help optimize the effectiveness of the current investments in Hawaii's criminal justice system. It will also help gradually reduce the need for out-of-state prison beds and generate $160 million in savings over the next 6 years that can then be in turn reinvested in strengthening the criminal justice system here in Hawaii. By reinvesting just 1/3 of the savings over the next 6 years, the Justice Reinvestment approach strengthens restitution collection services for victims, adds probation and parole staff to monitor offenders more closely and reduce crime, improves how quickly offenders are assessed during pretrial, and expands access to community-based treatment programs to reduce recidivism. We look forward to working with state leaders in Hawaii as they consider these ideas in the months to come, and we're happy to provide continued assistance as we go forward. The type of leadership commitment you have from all 3 branches to look hard at your system and make significant improvements is truly remarkable. We're pleased to be part of the process. Thank you.
Marshall, can you stay up here? At this time, I'd like to invite up Chief Justice Rettenwald, Judge Ong, and Senate President Shanti Tsui, Senator Snow, and Senator Espero. Oh, and we also have Representative Aquino here, so would you please come and join us? As well as the prosecutors, we have J.D. Kim and Keith Gosher. Would you please come and join us? So as you've heard the information that Marshall shared, we'd also like to ask Judge Rettenwald to give a few words on behalf of the judiciary.
Thank you, Joe. Aloha. This is an important day for the criminal justice system in Hawaii. The Justice Reinvestment Initiative represents a new way of looking at some very long-standing challenges. Through the unique partnership you've heard about today, involving all three branches of government, we've been able to take a fresh look at the results we've been obtaining over the years. And based on that work, we've been able to identify ways in which the system can operate more efficiently while enhancing public safety. The judiciary looks forward to working with our partners to implement the initiatives that have been identified through the JRI process. Indeed, we've already begun modifying some of our internal operating policies on a pilot basis to address some of the opportunities identified in the area of facilitating pretrial release of defendants. We're very grateful for the support and assistance of the Council on State Governments, the Pew Foundation, and the Bureau of Justice Assistance. I'd also like to thank the many people who devoted their time and energy to the JRI working group, who guided the development of the recommendations that are being made today. Judge Stephen Aum served as one of the chairs of the working group, and I'd like to thank him for his great leadership on JRI, as well as on initiatives such as Hope Probation. I'd also like to thank Governor Abercrombie for his leadership. We're very lucky in Hawaii to have a governor with his background as a probation officer and his understanding of the criminal justice system. And I think, again, he's brought that expertise and leadership to bear in a number of ways, including in this process. We're very grateful for that. I'd like to thank President Tsutsui and the other members of the legislature who participated in this effort for their strong supporting leadership. And finally, Jody Naiasaka Furata for her great work and hard work and that of her staff on this JRI initiative. Aloha and mahalo.
And as we go through this process, I would really be remiss by not asking the Attorney General to join us as well, David Louie, and our chairperson for the Paroling Authority. And the reason why I asked him to come up is the Attorney General's office worked really hard in helping us capture data and giving us information of evidence-based practices, which we've been working for the last 10 years, which the council also used. And we also have, we are very proud that Hawaii is the first state to be adding victim services to their justice reinvestment process. And the person that takes care of that for the state of Hawaii is Pam Ferguson. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over.
Thank you. Well, on behalf of the legislative body, we first of all like to thank the representatives who were able to come down and provide us with this third-party review. It's very exciting from our perspective because 7 months ago we were one of a few states who were selected to participate in this process. And over the course of that 7 months, I think many of us have learned quite a great deal about the efficiencies and some of the areas of improvement for our public safety as well as our justice system. I'm really excited today because although it's the conclusion of this working group, this is really the beginning for us. This is the time when the legislative branch will get to work with a number of proposals that will be submitted by the administration, right, Governor? And we look forward to, at least at this point, starting the discussion with the different stakeholders to come up with better solutions as we move forward. So on behalf of my colleagues in both the House and Senate, we'd like to thank Marshall, Andy, and Robert for their many months of hard work, and also thank the members of the working group for providing them with the information and the data that they needed to come up with the necessary recommendations. Thank you.
And our other tri-chair, Judge Steve Aum, would also like to say a few words.
Thank you. Justice Reinvestment does a very interesting thing. You're trying to look at inefficiencies, way to make the system work better, and reduce the number of people going into prison at the front end or returning the back, while at the same time always protecting public safety. That's why it's a smart idea. You have a variety of folks with different backgrounds able to participate in this. And as I have gone around the country on somebody else's dime talking about hope probation, I have seen many states have done this process, and it has worked out extremely well for them, including both some of the most tough on crime states, like Texas and Kentucky. And I'm the first to say the violent, dangerous, and the ones who won't stop stealing need to be sent to prison. But at the same time, if we can look at our systems and having these folks from the Council of State Governments come in, give a fresh approach to us, help us really understand how our system works, where some of the bottlenecks are, what some of the drivers are to state prison, then they present us with this unique opportunity at all times protecting public safety, but figuring out ways to be more efficient, smarter on crime. So we always got to be tough on crime, but we can be smart on crime at the same time. And I think people have done a great job so far, but again, the process will continue. So I'm happy to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. And at this time, we're going to turn it over to Senator Wells to say a few words.
First, I'd like to applaud the Justice Center staff for the outstanding work that they did, Robert, Andy, and Marshall. They have begun a process that will certainly benefit the state and benefit our corrections and judicial system. Also like to applaud Kat Brady and Carrie Ann Shirota for helping to plant the seed in getting this whole process working. One of the recommendations and the findings concludes that possibly within 6 years we may have a savings of $100 million. So this is something that we certainly want to pursue. There may be some disagreements by a few of the stakeholders on some of the recommendations and findings. However, I do believe that at the end of the day, we will all agree that our state will benefit from this process and our corrections and judicial system will be much better. So thank you to all the stakeholders.
We also have Senator Sam Sloan. Senator.
Thank you, Jody. I want to thank the governor and all the people that were involved in this. I have to tell you that initially I looked at this with a jaundiced eye. How are you going to bring all these people together and have anything meaningful? I think it's been productive. I think everybody has had an opportunity to express their concerns, and I have concerns. I share many of the concerns of the city prosecutor. Public safety, public safety, public safety. We cannot forget that. Certainly when we're looking for efficiencies and we're looking for cost reductions and all of that, it still comes down to public safety. But I'm sure that this is a beginning. It is something that we will give due deliberation to. And I just want to assure you this is not a partisan issue. It is to the benefit of all of us involved to reinvest and reinvent our judicial system.
And as we said, that this was not just one level of government. We also have our Vice Chair for Public Safety, our Chair for Public Safety, Henry Aquino, Representative.
Thank you very much. I think what we've learned in the last 7 months is where we are. We had an opportunity to take a look at ourselves objectively and look at what we can do to better our criminal justice system. So what we're seeing right now is unprecedented, bringing all these stakeholders together and really moving forward. So as Senate President had mentioned, this is the beginning of our journey. So I'd like to thank everyone for working very hard on putting the recommendations together from the departments, the administration, our stakeholders, and most of all, the Justice Center folks that came down from the mainland to help us. So what we're looking at is, we're looking at recommendations that will strengthen public safety, while at the same time, in these times, in these economic times, there's opportunity to save some funding as well. So on behalf of my colleagues as well, thank you so much for all the hard work. Aloha.